Shofar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'roim. Take a sefer. Okay. What page?
Yes. We did this.
I think we should skip around a little bit.
Okay.
Let's take a look. Page. That I don't think they're all the same page numbers. We'll say the siman. The siman is Taf Kuf Tzadik Aleph. Kuf Tzadik Aleph.
Page number 12, maybe.
Sif Yud Gimel. Taf Kuf Tzadik Aleph. Sif Yud Gimel. Yeah, Sif Yud Gimel. Taf Kuf Tzadik Aleph. Sif Yud Gimel. Here, you pass in the sefer. The sefer. I think this is the same pages that we have. Yeah, Yud Gimel. So last week we spoke that there are two sets of Tekios. There is Miyushiv and Mu'umid. Miyushiv are the Tekios that we blow right after Kriyas HaTorah. After Haftarah, people who are holding the two Sifrei Torah stand up, they go to the Bima, we start the Hachana for Tekios. After those Tekios are called Tekios Miyushiv, the Tekios we hear during Musaf, Shemana Esrei, are called Tekios Mu'umid. The reason why the Tekios Miyushiv are called Miyushiv, even though everyone is standing, because Api Halacha you actually don't need to stand. Only the Baal Tekeya needs to stand. And the minig is that everyone stands. It's not even mentioned in Shofar Rebbe, but however, the Matei Ephraim already mentions it. Matei Ephraim is a famous sefer from the Ephraim Zalman Margolius. He wrote many, many Sfarim. And he made a special sefer just about the dinim and the Geya for Tishrei. They made a special sefer called Matei Ephraim. Over there already he brings a tackle halachas not that way, but the minig is it's at the covet of the mitzvah that we do stand. But since Pi halacha you don't have to stand, the name stays still, we call them Tekios Miyushiv. Only the Baal Tekeya needs to stand. Before Tekios, by the way, the Matei Ephraim describes how you're supposed to make a hachana for Tekios, preparation for Tekios, and he writes how different people have different types of hachanas that they make. And he writes some people run to go to the mikveh, some people, sometimes the chacham gives a, and drasha, he said he should not say drush, even if it's nice gishmak drush. He says it's not the time for it. You should talk about things that are more people to the tshuva. And he says if he knows how to cry a little bit, he can cry, get people misoider. We always know by Chassidim was also a big thing that the hachanas for Tekios. So over here, now we're talking about Musaf, Tfilas Musaf. So there are a lot of pratis tekedinim about the Nusach and things. I'm just skipping it over. The Sif Yud Gimel, and it's talking about someone davening Tfilas Musaf b'yichidus without a minyan.
The Parshas after number why, Yechanat Smol Tekios, and then Tzefan doesn't say one word.
It doesn't say what it's the hachana is.
Then
Every person has his hachana. Every his hachana is. A famous story that Rabbi Soloveitchik from Yeshiva University he told over how when he was younger, his father, the Moshe Soloveitchik, the son of the Chaim, was a Rav in a Chassidish city, Chaslavich, and he was the Rav of the Rav. And when it came before Tekios, so the Chassidim would start crying and this Tekios, and his father didn't understand what was the whole commotion about it. He asked him, "Do you cry when you take the little of an esrig, when you do other mitzvahs asay? What's the difference this mitzvah asay than another mitzvah asay?" But he was like saying that he already understood a little more that what Tekios was about. That this is like Chassidim would call, this is the Koronatzianach, the coronation night that we're crowning Hashem as Melech, and it's not a stam another mitzvah. It's a mitzvah rabbah, it's a very special, great mitzvah. So you know that Tekios Shofar is a very special, important mitzvah. Sifis Gimel, Lo Yispal Adam B'Yochid Tfilas Musaf Rosh Hashanah Achar Sholish Shoyis Aliyim. Interesting thing. Someone who happens to be davening Tfilas Musaf B'Yechidus, he does not have a minyan. He should not daven until after 3 hours into the day, meaning 3 hours after Neitz Hachama, after sunrise. 3 hours after sunrise, you shouldn't daven the first 3 hours of the day. Why not? During Musaf, the Iker Tefillah, the whole Rosh Hashanah is Musaf. That's what we say, the Malchias, the Psukim of Malchias, the Chreinis and Shofars. That's the main Tefillah. Since someone is saying all these Psukim and Brachas, we have to be concerned. Chazal tell us that the first 3 hours of the day, Hashem is learning Torah. He's learning Torah. Torah is called emes, the truth.
So it's din.
It's din, because emes is, if you didn't have Ada, you didn't have Ada. There's no way to get kapara. That's what it is. So emes is emes. After 3 hours, Hashem is now judging the world. When he's judging the world, since he sees that the oilam cannot survive just with din, because look at the world, it's not going to be a good outcome if he goes with Gevura. So you're davening, not Stam Shmonesi, you're davening Malchis Uchein Shofar, which have a special tefillahs for Rosh Hashanah. So you're being Ma'oira L'Maila. You're asking about Parshas. Let's see what's going on with you. It's not a time that you want that Ma'oira they should look into you. This is the time, not a good time. That's only when you're davening b'yichidus. If you're davening with a minyan, it's different, because Hein Kel Kabir Lo Yimus, Hashem accepts the tefillah, but tefillah tzibur. It's always a good time when it's tzibur. So the mile of tzibur could happen earlier.
It could be in the first year.
Musaf and Shekol Hashana. What about Musaf an entire year? Every Shabbos and Yom Tiv, Shchodesh, V'chein Shachris Afilu Shalosh Hashana, Hoyel Ve'in Elos Shivchei Sha'akadosh Baruch Hu, V'sipuri Maisa HaKarbonis, Af Im Yispalo B'Yachid Lo Yu'aynu Maisa. Since you're not saying anything special and unique, they're not going to be looking into you. So it's okay. You're allowed to daven in the first 3 hours of the day. V'chein tefillah shachar shel choyel. Af al pi shemavakish batzrachav. Yishlach Shema Ya'aynu Ma'isa. B'chora, every weekday, how can I daven early in the morning? How can we daven v'sikin? How do you daven early the first 3 hours of the day? Even that was sikin. You're asking for your needs. Maybe they're going to look into us. Since you're not during the weekday, when you daven Shachris, even if you're not davening with a minyan, but most probably at the time that you're davening, there's definitely another minyan somewhere davening at the same time. So it's as if you're davening b'tzibur. Hashem will accept your tefillah regardless. About tefillas ha-musaf, hoyul zman kol hayom. The musaf you could daven the whole day. Yesh magdim l'spal, yesh ma'achrim. Yesh Halachos shema v'shah shu l'spal, ein l'spal tefillas u'shum s'bivoylam. The titzchit tefillah say your tefillah is going to be pushed away.
Today the Jewish people on the start of the he davened so early, they already davened.
Olafichach is the Zayir Bakayitz. Next page, shall the spal shach shall foil the shari shoina. The vadai ain at sibur spal and ba'is shabbos man has a.
That means before the next.
Huh?
They're now before the next.
You should not daven the first hour of the day. For sure, no one's davening that time in the summer. This is talking about in Europe. I think in Europe where it's very early. The Zmanim are very early. The summertime, when I was there when we were running a summer camp, I remember already 2:00. It's starting to get light. 2 a.m. So Al Rebbe is saying in the summer, early in the morning, no one's davening yet at that time. Everyone's still sleeping. So then you should not daven shachris, even a weekday shachris, not Rosh Hashanah. During the winter time, don't push off after 2 hours into the day, because it's a very short day. You shouldn't daven in that third hour, because no one's davening then. And this is another important halacha. For this very same reason, a person who's davening, who's blowing shofar privately, not with a minyan, should not blow till after 3 hours into the day. This is an agaya. I mean, what do we do when you meet someone and you want to blow from Michoel, right? Over here it's a problem according to this halacha. But this is all a din l'chatchila, as a hiros, you shouldn't do it. If the person is not going to hear Tekios Shofar b'chlal the whole day, then obviously it's better to do it. Yeah, what's the best time to do it? The mitzvah not Torah, obviously, but l'chatchila, that's not the seder. L'chatchila, you should not hear shofar at that time, unless you're with a minyan. If you're not with a minyan, if you're some reason someone's in a base cholim, a firm person, he can hear later, he should hear after 3 hours of the day.
Train station, go to the shofar, go to 8 o'clock, walk the phone and still old man walking 5 o'clock in the morning, go to shofar by the train with a big wood, and they don't know what's wrong. That's if you do here once you go to and then 8 o'clock you walk back to he died in the whole day.
Why it's important to remember, by the way, that Noshim, the concept saying that Noshim are Pturis for the mitzvah. They only blow because Las is nachas ruach lehen. They blow. We definitely cannot make a bracha, but
she can make a
bracha. Should not be looking to blow for a lady. Blow if the lady wants to hear is one thing, but to blow for men because the lady is not chayiv. Not chayiv.
The lady has to make a bracha. Somebody took care for her.
Yeah, she can make the bracha. You can't make it for her because since she's not chayiv, you don't have any achrayis to make for her a bracha.
I went to a sick lady. So the husband said that thing is not very short, so he made a bracha. He don't know how to go.
Now, this is all benegei yachid. Next simin, Chavkus Adik Beis, we're going to talk about tefillas Musaf Michoel Ram. Say that skis. Shenispalem tefillas Musaf Tzibur Tiknu Chacham L'Tzgoya Tarat L'Malchias Tarat L'Zachroines V'Tarat L'Shofres. What does that mean? Tkiya, Trua, Tkiya. The resh here stands for Trua because both tufs, Trua and Tkiya, both start with a tuf. So the Rosh Tevis for Trua over here is the resh, second letter. So Yidava Musaf, Chachamim were misakin that you should blow Tekios during Musaf. Well, the fish, if it's Tfilas Musaf, Balachash, Kol Echa Becha Mispala Atzmoi, Min Echa Mesayim Berchois, B'Shosh Chaveda Mesayim, Ein Toikim B'Tfilas Zug, Meshin Toikim B'Yachid Meshiz Bar. He first says something that the really ikr din is you should not blow shofar during the quiet Shemoneh Esrei Musaf, because since everyone is davening at a different pace, not all at the same spot, so it's like as if everyone's davening b'yichidus. When you daven b'yichidus, there's no takana of Chazal to blow shofar on Musaf when you're davening b'yichidus. Someone happens to be in a place where they're not going to, there's no minyan for Musaf. You don't blow shofar during Musaf. Same thing over here. Even the tefillah b'lachash, everyone's holding in a different spot. So therefore, you should wait and blow on chazaras hashatz.
So it's a minhag for everybody?
No.
V'yesh mekoymes. V'yesh mekoymes. And we're going to read it now. V'yesh mekoymes shenoyeg in letzkoya beis pa'amim. Achas b'tfilas lachash v'achas b'chazaras hashatz tzibur. Ha'b'makim she'im minik ein lidin kein l'chatzchila. I think that the Yekas don't do it. No? I think Ashkenaz Shul, they don't blow on Lachash, right?
They want to sit down.
No, they don't blow, right?
They want to sit down.
No, they don't. That's the Alter Rebbe said the Iker Minig.
No.
Some Makaimes do like what we do. Makim that has no Minig, don't do that. Only blow. A Minig is a Minig. But if there's no Minig, Chazaras Hashatz. By the way, there's an inyan to hear on Rosh Hashanah 100 sounds of shofar. Obviously, Me'ikar Hadin, you're only chayiv to her 30. But there's an inyan, Api Soid, Api Kabbalah, to hear 100 koilas. It says in Svarim that Schach is Gematria 100. The Schach of the Sukkah is the Hamshacha from shofar, the 100 koilas. How do we hear 100 koilas? We hear the first 30 right after Kriyas HaTorah. 30 during our tefillah balachash, another 30 during the tefillah chazaras hashatz, that's 90, then 10 during the kaddish right after Shemoneh Esrei.
And then we do a tefillah and that 30.
That 30 is a minig balma, and that's not in the cheshbon. This is 100 that you're chayv. Now, why the blow those last 30? The Alter Rebbe in the Shulchan Aruch says because in case maybe someone didn't hear the Tekios, another 30. Yeah.
130.
It says
just in case someone missed one key or something.
it's a minig and no,
But there's one more.
they don't blow after.
One more true.
Oh, so that says all it's not saying Shofar. What after everything? They do a trua.
One more true. The last one? The last one. 2 times.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you what it is. In Tov Kuf Tzadik Vav, Yesh Mekoymes. You can look it up just for a second. Tov Kuf Tzadik Vav. Yesh Mekoymes Noigel Achar Tfila Marian Trua Gedoyla Beloitkia Ila Arb Masasot. And you have it right here. It's a very early thing. It comes from the Siddur Ram Amba, from the Goinim. Shaloy Katrik Achar Tfila Shaholchem Va'oichem V'shoyshim V'smeichem Loimer She'enam Yirei Me'im Esimadim. Yesh Mekoymes, this is the Minik Chabad. Noigel Lachs of its Goyish Shloishim Koilis. Maybe there's someone there that didn't hear everything properly. He walked out, he didn't hear it. What he's saying here is like this. We don't have this problem, what the Alter Rebbe is saying. But the Alter Rebbe is talking like Minik Ashkenaz. That the Iker Minik was they only blow on during Chazaras Hashatz.
They don't do the
So they only have 60. So they're missing 40 koilas. So after Shemoneh Esrei, they would blow 40 to mash on the minyan of the Meya koilas. We anyways have the Meya koilas because we're blowing on Lachash, we're blowing on Chazaras Hashatz, you have 90 and just have the 10. So by us, the Shaila, where either we're doing a Trua Gedoyla, or we're doing the 30 Kailas, but it's nothing connected to the 100 Kailas. We already yotze the Ingen of 100 Kailas. Now, going back to where we're holding, Talk with Tzadik base.
It's not allowed to every get stuff. Like,
There's a Sikh of the Rebbe about this. How could it be the Satan's a Malach? How could it be that he's getting confused over here? He doesn't know what's happening.
The same story.
And the gist of the Sikh is that he knows, but when he sees Klal Yisrael being misametz and being mechav the mitzvah, that ruins his tkifus and his kitrug. He doesn't have any strong kitrug anymore. When he sees we're bluffing so much and we're doing so many things that he doesn't have koyach, schwachens up his tightness.
Satan doesn't like Chabad. Chabad mess him up. Another 30 extra.
Kiddush? So you don't eat two of the kids. So you're not supposed to.
Only the Litvish eat before it. It's not maybe. Breslov also eats before it's kids. Make Kiddush. Yeah. But the original Breslov did. Original.
We basically fasted.
The Oivin.
Most
people don't, but it does say that such as Ingen.
When I was in Shiva Tana, I remember about the Rosh Hashanah.
He went.
The fourth kiss went.
It says in the Mate Ephraim that the Baal Tekios, when Baal Tekios goes, not again.
But he used a bunch of different shapes.
Right.
Was that all avoided with the.
That's we saw most of it. She's like,
Yeah, somebody understood.
So Rabbi say, actually, usually Chabad eats before davening. Chabad is makel to eat before davening. Not in Rosh Hashanah. Hashanah they don't eat. I don't know. Tekios elu nekroyim tekios mu'umad. These tekios that we blow during Shemana Esrei are called mu'umad. Why? She'af hashoymim tzrichim lami be'esh shmiyas tekios elu. Need to stand because it's Shemana Esrei. Siv Bey, back to Simon Tavkuf Tzadik Beis. Tavkuf Tzadik Beis, Siv Beis. Masheenki mitkis mushav shein tzarech lamed tkei bovad. By Tekios Miyoshev, we said only the Baal Tekios needs to stand. By Tekios Mu'umad, everyone is standing. It's during Shemana Esrei. And even during Chazaras Hashatz, many people also stand because it's Chazaras Hashatz. So therefore, it's called Tekios Mu'umad.
Sure.
Now, the Gemara, now we're going to go to Sif Gimel. Before we read Sif Gimel, the Gemara says, the Gemara Shoshana says like this, Rabbi was misakin to blow 30 koilas on Rosh Hashanah. 30 sounds. What was the takana of Rabbi? Originally, we from the Torah we learn out from comparing the psukim by Rosh Hashanah to the psukim by Yom Kippur of Yovel. In Kippur of Yovel they had to blow on that Yom Kippur blow shofar, and that's how they allowed all the avodim went free and all the karkois went back. Was from the shofar blowing on the Yom Kippur of Yovel year. That's why, by the way, the year of Yovel is called Yovel. Yovel means shofar. That's what Yovel means. Shnas haYovel hazois teshuvu hishel apozase. It's called, the whole year is called Yovel based on the fact because at the beginning of the year they blow shofar, and that will be the signal when everyone, all the avodim went free and when everything. So the Torah tells us we blow on Rosh Hashanah Tekios and we blow on Yom Kippur of the Yovel year. Every 50 years we blow shofar. The Torah compares the two and learns them, puts them together, and says that from all the psukim in both places, we learn out that this is how you have to blow Tekios, both on Rosh Hashanah and both in Yom Kippur of Yovel, the same way. The way you do it is 3 sets: Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah, Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah, Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah. That's what it is. It's 9 sounds. So why are we blowing 30 sounds? Now, before the Gemara said that you have to blow 30 sounds, and the Gemara, that's the halacha, we blow 30. What's this 30? How did 9 become 30? So there's a machlokes about it. The Rambam and most opinions held that mesh up the generations, because we had so many Gullison and Klal Yisrael was always on the move and on the road, and all the tzaris, we lost the Messiah of what a trua sound is. The Torah says, Yoim trua yeh lochem. What does it mean, a trua? How does that sound? We lost it, just like we lost a lot of Messiah from pre-war to after the war, after a few years of war, and all the yeshivas were uprooted and people were wiped out, communities were wiped out, so we lost a lot of Menhagim and Messiahs. So it was a lot, we lost the Messiah of exactly what a trua is. And the suffix became, now we have three different sounds, and we're not sure what is a trua. Either trua is what we call today a trua, which is when we make those short sounds, at least 9 short sounds. You can do more than 9, but the da 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 da, that's the trua. Or it's what we call the shvarim, which is the 3 slower sounds. So that's the shvarim. Or it's both of them together, the shvarim and then a trua. And that is the trua that the Torah said. So because it became this suffix, so the Bavo came and said, we're dealing here with a mitzvah and a Torah, and we don't not sure what is a trua. You have to do all of them. And now, just like the Torah, we learn out from the various psukim by Rosh Hashanah and by Yom Kippur of Yovel, you have to blow 3 sets of each. You also have to blow 3 sets of all of the other 2 sounds that we're not sure. So 3 sets of tarat, which is trua tkiya. 3 sets of tashat, which means tkiya, shvarim, tkiya, because maybe the shvarim is the trua. And then you have to blow 3 sets. It's actually the opposite order, the way we do it, but 3 sets of tashrat, which is tkiya, shvarim, trua, tkiya, the shvarim and the trua together. And you do each one 3, because maybe each one is it. All together, it's 30 sounds. 9, and tashrat is 4 sounds each. So that Seder, you have extra sounds. You have 12. You have 12 and 18 is 30. By the way, Rav Haigoin, quoted in various Rishonim, held differently. He held it wasn't that we had a loss of Messiah. All of these sounds are kosher for trua. They're all called truas. They're all good. Elamai, various kehilas started to think that their sound was the correct sound, and started saying, "Oh, that shul over there, they're not doing the right one, and that community, they're doing the wrong one." And because it looked like it was a machlokes, reality was that they're all kosher sounds. The way he explains was that Bavo was masakin that there shouldn't be any. All Klal Yisrael should do the same thing. We should all blow each other's sounds. And that's what we blow all 30. Now, Lamaisa, we already blew all 30 by after Kriyas HaTorah. After Haftarah, we do it by the Bima. The Baal Tekios stands by the Bima, blows all 30. So what is now? Why are we blowing? So during Shmoneh Musaf, why do we blow? Chazal or Masakin that when we say Malchi is the greatest in Shofar, we should also blow. But what should we blow during Musaf? We already Yaitza when we blew all the things. So what should we be blowing in Musaf? Let's see Sif Gimel. Tav Kuf Tzadik Beis Sif Gimel. Va'achshav shetiknu l'chachamim lotzes midei kol hatzveikis sheish l'stapik b'trua. Now that Chazal or Masakin for Bavo that we should fulfill our obligation for all the various doubts there are in Trua. Like was explained in the previous simin, Ayin Sham, Ha'imer Roiditzkoya Tashat Tashat Tarat, the Malchis, V'chein Chazveines, V'chein Shofris. The same thing should be during Musaf. Blow again another 30 during Musaf. Do each one. Do Tashrat. Do 10 in each. Tashrat Tashat Tarat from Malchis. Another 10 for Zefrein and 10 for Shofris. Because we'll be yaitz all the Sveikas at Trua. Ella lefish ein metzrichin ala tzibur. It's tzirchin tzibura. Everyone already heard all 30. So we're going to do them all again. Ein noegin letzkoya ella tashrat lemalchis. V'chein zechein in the shofars. You just do 4 sounds for malchis, 4 sounds for zefreines, 4 sounds for shofars. It's not our minig, but I'm just bringing it. Some people do have this minig. Just tashrat for each. Now, he explains here now Now, the Rebbe is going to explain why was this minig just tashrat. Because he says like this: if you blow tashrat, you have all the various sounds there. You have a tkiya, a shvarim, a trua, and a tkiya. You have them all there. Elamai, your shaila is, what's the real trua? But I'm blowing all the sounds. If it's both together, I have both. If it's each one separate, I have a shvarim in there, I have a trua in there. Elamai, you're going to tell me the halacha is that you're now to separate in between the tkiya and the trua. And if the shvarim is really the real trua, then the trua is being mafsik between the shvarim, and then the opposite. The Alter Rebbe says that's not a shaila. That's just a shaila of hefsik, of what's the ikr. But you have there all the sounds. So therefore, the minig was in this mocking that they would blow just tashrat for each one, because they're not going to be matriach the tzibur to blow all the 30 koilos again on Musaf. Shebederech zu oise kol hasveikish al trua. Vein kan chshash elo shema hatrua eine ela shvarim levad or trua levad. The nimsa and the concern is shema hu mafsik bein trua lepshuta shafnei achara. Maybe you're making a hefsik between the tkiya, which is called pshuta, the koil pashut, before or after. Vein anu chayshin, we're not going to chshash for this chshash. Shekvay yetzanu yidei chayvim and atayv tkiyas miyushiv. Shekiyas ahem yetzanu mikol asveikas. We already yoytzen tkiyas miyushiv all the sveikas. So what are we so concerned about? So this chashash we put aside, and for the takana of Chazal to be do tkiyas and malchus is just do tashrat in each one, the short version. However, in Sif Dalid we see another minig. Yesh noigin let's go to malchus tashrat pamachs. One time tashrat for malchus. L'zuchreines tashat. Or l'shayfres tashtarat. Why? What's the reason for this minig? The reason for this minig is going to explain, based on what we were saying earlier, that really there's one that is showing in the hell that there never was a machlokes what the real true is. They're all good truas. So if they're all good, let's show that they're all good, and we're going to blow each one of each, and with all of them, I'm yaitza.
It's not terach l'tzivu.
This
Opposite, it's the less.
is a little bit less than the previous one. Just tashrat one time on malchus, tashat on zokranis, and shofar tarat. Just 10 sounds altogether. The other one, minig, was 12 sounds because you're doing tashrat. Lefi, why? What's the reason? This minig shevan haTorah bein shvarim bein trua shalanu hakoil trua nikah trua. Ve'ech sheyasa adam bein shvarim levad bein trua shalanu levad yisich avasa you all yaitz. So he's showing him how you mix this Mekaimis Noigin Lasses Shvarim, mix this Noigin Lasses Trushalam. In the early generations, some places would do like this, something like this. The Eilu Yaitz Nechavas Minatari Yaitz with all of them. That's the sheet. It seemed like a machloikis, the common folk was understood as the machloikis here. The Takana Ravo was Lasakin Shukol Yisrael Oisim Maisa Echod. And therefore, Skino Tzkoya by Miyushiv, they're masakin to blow Tashrat Gimopam, Tashat Gimopam, Takimopam by the Miyushiv. Shouldn't be any doubts. It looks like the moment. We're not going to do this all over again on Musaf. We just show by the moment that they're all good. Do one sample this, one sample this set, because they're all really truest. So you're all yoitze. That's the second minig. However, there's another minig. There's 4 minhagim here. Sif hey. Yesh noigin let's go ya. Gimel pam tashat malchis. Gimel pam tashat. And gimel pam tarat le shayfus. Some say no. We got to do all the 30. All the 30. So all the 30. So from malchis, do 3 sets of tashrat. The chreines 3 times tashat. The shayfus 3 times tarat. Now I did all 30. The Yeshna in the final 4th minute that Alter Rebbe brings The ending is Sefhei. It's Goya Tashra Tashat Tarat Lamalchis.
Chabad.
Chain Lechazachainis, Bechain
No,
B'Shaychus.
Chabad.
The minig zeh hu amuvchar hagim. The best minig is to do this final way. So you blow all 30. So this they're not the last two hagim are not choishes v'tichid tzibura. That's out the picture already. And these two, they're both holding. You have to blow 30. But how should you do the 30? The first sheet is said to do the three sets together. All three tashrats on tashatra. The second one says mix it up. L'chora, the reason why you should mix it up is because of the reason we mentioned earlier in the second minute, to show that each one are really good. I think that's the way most people are noyig. I don't know how is minig Ashkenaz noyig or the Sfardim, how they noyig,
Three.
and Musaf,
Musa, Belachash,
Balachash or Betzibur,
all that's cure.
everything.
Because before he started with cure, next to him somebody said the pasuk a little bit louder, so everybody knows where he's holding
Uh-huh.
the staff. They listen to the cure.
Chabad, we don't say
You don't say that.
no. Show me the king, but no.
Now, I'm not sure. Ashkenaz, what do they do? What's the minig? You have to know. Not everyone is always does. Not we need Gottlieb back. He always gave us the minig Ashkenaz. Call Gottlieb when you wish him good Shabbos and tell him we want to know how in Ashkenaz. Do they blow on the lachash?
Can't talk to him.
They don't blow balachash. They didn't blow balachash. But you remember how in Musaf they would blow? They would blow which minig? We'll take an Ashkenaz machzer and we'll take a look. Rabbi, we don't have this. We just have Sidurim. But, the Ashkenaz machzer, art scroll machzer. Uh-huh. Halachash.
No, in the moment they do.
But they don't blow lachash.
No, not during the time. Not the shot. Not the shot. No, that's not.
He's asking now a second question. Right.
They do nine, all the 9 toilets every time, or just the last and then the shot and the start. But the last they don't go. They go 100 toilets. How they have other if the last they don't do anything.
Yeah. Everyone does 100 koilas. They mash them after Shemon Esrei, right? How they mash from the 100 koilas? After Shemon Esrei, they do 40.
It's
And
Chabad.
do they do it? They do 100 koilas, no? I think everyone does 100 koilas. How do they do the 100 koilas? They do 30 Yoshev, 30 Mu'omid. They do after davening, after by Kaddish or something, they do another 40. That's what they do, right? Yeah. I think everyone does 100 koilas. By the way, if you're davening yourself, Musaf. So we said earlier, you don't blow Tekios. Maybe we'll see it here soon. You don't blow Tekios if you're davening be Yechidus. Chazal will only masakin this takana when you're davening Musaf B'tzibur to blow Shofar. There's no Shofar on Musaf. How do you do the 100 koilas?
After you finish davening, you're gonna do 60 koilas.
So some say you don't do the 100 koilas. You can't do it. Some say you should do it. Many svarim say that you could do it. Someone who wants, you're not chayiv to do it. Someone who wants to do it, it's not considered uvdin dechoil. It's not considered blowing shofar extra for no reason. And you're allowed to, after your Shemon Esrei, to go and blow. I one time spent, I was in a prison during Rosh Hashanah. We were there for Rosh Hashanah. An army base. There was a federal prison. We stayed in a motel on the army base. And we walked over from the motel to the prisons. There was there was 3 prisons. There were 3 different levels of maximum, medium, or minimum security. And then there also was the military. So there was from the Aleph Institute, we had 6 Lubavitcher Bachrim. 2 were going to go to each prison. And then also there was at the same hotel was maybe a guy from Lakewood, a Litvisher guy from Lakewood, and he was going to be the chaplain for the military. He just come. They brought him there for Rosh Hashanah. We all stayed in the same place, and we all had the meals together in this motel. And then we would walk over some distance on the army property in a military base till we got to these various prisons, and then we'd
How
go
many
in.
Jewish people? The prison.
There was a minyan,
Unfortunately.
but there was a minyan for Shachris. For the first set, after I blew Tekios, they were running out the door. I said, "What's going on?" They said, "Lunch."
More
Lunch.
important.
So I wanna no, Musaf, Shaifer, but they're running out already.
Them by yourself, I know, Shana, we're gonna fit it.
There was Shachris we had a minyan, Musaf also, but they came back later. They had to take a break in between the Mu'ummad and the Miyusha, which you're not supposed to do, right? Anyways, there was a guy there, very nice guy. He came out not long after from the prison. He was a guy who was the head of the Democratic Party here in New York.
What is
A
the-
Jewish guy. His name was Sabbath. Steve Sabbath, I
What
think
is
his name
the
was.
J?
Something financial over there. He was very close to the Clintons and the different people. And he told me about various conversations he had with this wasn't a maximum security, that one, I wasn't to the maximum. He wasn't there it was a white collar crime, and he decided when he came to the prison that he's gonna, instead of being very angry the whole time, he's realized the situation and he's gonna try to work on himself and educate himself, do different things. And he learns about Yiddishkeit. Wasn't frum, but he never cared much about Yiddishkeit before. And now he had time to focus a little bit, so he started to becoming more interested. And he told me that because his name was Sabbath, so he had this company that was 1 on 800 Sabbath or something, and he said that people would call him up and ask him when is Shabbos coming in, some. They had various people there, so this, huh? Right? So,
Rabbi, talking about prison, about 30 years ago, I prepared food for Pesach and for Rosh Hashanah for prisoners here in New York State. In Rosh Hashanah, I went myself. I had a station one that I remember. My wife and myself, we prepared chicken and everything, and I'm going from prison to prison. I had a tag here, I bought a rabbi, and you have to go floor by floor. And they announce you, the rabbi coming from first floor to second floor. I bring the Jewish people, 3 or 4, and the Goyim said, "I'm a Jew too, can I have 2?" They were so jealous. I had some extra, I gave them, but
unfortunately, a number of non-Jewish people go to prison, and some African Americans and things. They start claiming they're Jewish for religious, so they decide they want to get another meal. They get not only regular, they get a kosher meal and this. I don't think that the kosher food there is that maybe more. I don't know if it's anything more, but listen, the prison system is not going to question your religion. You say that you claim that you're this religion, so they take it. They have to. You can't discriminate.
It was the J.
I didn't see that when I was there, but I've heard about this. When I was there, I went to a few jails a little bit different times and various places, including in Nevada and the Las Vegas area. I never in California. I don't think I've ever experienced really that, but I've heard about such incidents where people have claimed to have been Jewish in prison because they felt they're going to get better services or something.
One of our said when he was in jail, one of the hard time with the sickness camp, and they do the sickness camp, the Jewish pastor said, "Be Jewish, you want to be this."
Yavin and Sukkah.
The one that out of his email, he says they build a sukkah in the jail, They give information, right? Because religious. And then a few months it says three Jewish also want to get.
They had to verbring with them,
For Pesach, I had 7 UPS truck. Used to live on the parkway. On the parkway to turn to his 4 because everything was my garage was in the back. Like 2,000 boxes. And, for the prison.
Wow.
Some of them you have to have only Mehadrin,
Uh-huh.
Iskovich with the Jewish name. They will not take Manashevitz or this and that. And the bread shoes, I have to send it to the chapel. I have different address and I send them for 2 cases, 1 case. Send them.
I want to make sure that they
Yeah.
like the mayor matzah.
Yeah. So Lamaisa Rabbi say,
They either want to build a shofar.
now,
Want to design?
Siv Zayin. Hamispalo Musaf B'Yachid. That's what we said out loud. Let's take the Siv Zayin. Ein mafsik kedei l'tgoya seder habrachis. So we said before, you davening Musaf B'Yachidis, privately, you don't make a hefsik to blow on the seder habrachis. Afilu yesha misha tekei. What happens if you say, I'm not going to do it, I'll have someone else blow for me while I'm davening Musaf.
Yes.
But you have no minyan. A mafsik l'shaymam. Shlei tiknu ela b'tzibur. Mikol mokim hatkiya shechayiv l'shmoya min ha'toyra tashatkim upam tashakim upam tarakim but toiv sheyishma oisam koidem musaf. It's best to hear your tkiyas miyushiv before musaf.
Even if you're yochid.
Even if you're yachin, you can blow in sibur, still have them blown before. I don't know the reason, but I'm assuming the reason is because the whole tkiyas before musaf is la'arvav hasatan during musaf. The Gemara Shoshana Daf Zayin says, "Lama noyegin l'tkoya kishein yoshvin toikin emirin kishein yoshvin toikin emirin kishein oimdin." Why do we do both? Why do we do miyushiv? Why do we do ma'umin? Am Rabbi Yitzchak kedei la'arvav hasatan. Ma'arvav the satan. The way most Haiskim understand, Rabbi Shoinim la'arvav hasatan means that the first kiyas are la'arvav hasatan. And we'll see that soon, further on in the Sif. So therefore, it makes sense that we're blowing, even when you're davening privately Musaf, you don't have a minyan, you should still blow before Musaf to have the inyan of the Arav Satan, that your davening Musaf should be without a Satan being makathig you during Musaf, because that's the Ikar Tefillah.
They don't blow during Musaf.
You can blow during Musaf, also to blow during Musaf.
If you're yochid.
If you want to do so before blow Miyushiv, like you should normally blow Miyushiv, during Musaf, you cannot blow anything. Even someone else you have to blow for, you can't mafsik to hear it. After davening, that's not discussed in the Shofar. It's already later paskim that maybe you could mash in the Meit Tekios. There's no chiyuv. Someone who's chared wants to can go and do it.
You can talk after the
Yeah, there's no mu'umid, so you have no mu'umid. You can talk right away.
The Yemen people, that the soil, remember? They do to kids before Shabbos.
Really?
Yeah. They
For
start
Shabbos?
Before Shabbos. They still without the Rebbe.
They do tkiyas all the time during slichas. I see they do tkiyas.
Right, but
They do
the Rosh Hashanah.
during the slichas. They're constantly blowing.
Right, only Rosh Hashanah. They start.
You know this, yeah? The teimanim.
Long.
They're blowing throughout the slichas. The middle slichas, different parts. It's only blowing.
Rabbi, the Satan, thousands of years. You didn't make stop already? Every year we try to mess
We're
up.
every day hoping he's going to stop.
He's still
Wait.
to work.
Who are Satan, who are Malach HaMaves, he's still at work, unfortunately.
He's still without the Rebbe that he blow only on in the morning. And at the war.
And it's interesting because we read earlier that he shouldn't blow.
I will tell the secret.
Huh? They all no, but Sibur is not an issue.
Right. We said it before.
Sibur, maybe the Alter Rebbe had a Sibur with him when he did it. They had a minyan. If you have it Sibur, there's no issue.
Secret is what, 10, right?
Yeah. Now, let's look. It's a little bit of a long sif here. Let's try to learn a little bit. And After Pishat Kiyas moment in mitzvah divrei sefer, middle the beginning of Zion, the second paragraph. After became imavarach and alein k'mishavarach and akol mitzvah divrei sefer. Sheftar mebracha sheberach al Kiyas miyoshev. Rabbi say we just explained that Chazal were to give a takana. You should blow Tekios on during Shmoneh Esrei, Tekios moment. Every mitzvah midrabanan, and we make a bracha on. Why don't we make a bracha on this? Because it said you just made a bracha on the miyoshev. That goes for both the miyoshev and the moment.
That's why we don't talk.
Kiven shein iftar me bracha acha. Since you're pattering both with one bracha, you shouldn't talk in between. Now the Baal Tekios shouldn't make a hefsik. Till after Tekios moment. However, if you did indeed talk in between the miyushav and the moment, whether the Tekios talked or whether the listener talked, we don't make another bracha. So let's talk a little bit what we're going to say now inside, talk outside. I don't know if we're going to have time before Ma'ariv. We're going to Ma'ariv now to read inside, but usually when you talk and make a hefsek, you have to make another bracha. If the bracha in the beginning of Miyushiv is going on the Deiraisa, the Miyushiv, and it's going at Takanas Chachamim on Me'umid, the Tekios Me'umid, and you made a hefsek in between, you should have to make another bracha on Tekios Me'umid, which is a mitzvah midrabanan. Mitzvah midrabanan, we make a bracha on. How come you don't make another bracha b'diavad? So the Chatchili Taka shouldn't talk to connect the two. B'diavad you don't. The Alter Rebbe has a very interesting way of explaining this concept. And in order to understand it, we have to backtrack. Remember before we mentioned a Gemara which says, the Gemara asks, how come the minig is that we blow the Yusha, we blow Mu'umid? The Gemara says, K'dei la'arv v'sat. Now, the lush in the Gemara there seems to be like, that was like a minig that they did. Klal Yisrael had a minig to blow Miyusha Mu'umid. Why do we do that? La'arv v'sat. So really, before this minig that the Gemara is recording, we see in the Mishnah that originally they would blow during Musaf, Tfilas Musaf. Chazal said you should do the mitzvah min haTorah during Musaf. There was no meyushav and me'umid. Originally, at times in the Mishnah, there's only one set of 30 Tekios you need to hear that Abavo was Masakin. He wasn't Masakin more than that. It was 30 Tekios. When should you hear those 30 Tekios? Chazal said, blow it during the Musaf Shmoneh Esrei, Malchi is a finest and Shaifas. Why are you saying those brachas? And that was it. There was no miyushiv. There was no miyushiv. However, there became a minute to blow miyushiv. And the Gemara is questioning why do they do miyushiv a moment? Gemara says, Kidei la'arv the satan. The sitting Tekios, the first set of Tekios are called miyushiv. The second set of Tekios are called moment. During Shmoneh Esrei, you're standing. Minig, you're right. But that's a minig. Minadin, you could sit. The Matei Ephraim writes the minig became that we stand. The Baal Tekios has to always stand, but the Oilam doesn't have to stand. Minig is we stand. So it's called Miyushiv, it's called Mug. So the Gemara says, Lama Toikin Meri Kishin Yoishvin. Lama Toikin Shin Oimdin, Kedela Abramasa. So something else happened later after the original Takana. So there was the 30 Tekios that you have to hear Menat Torah. Then there was a takana. Chacham said you have to blow them on the Musaf Shmoneh Esrei Me'umid, on the brachas. That was it. There was no miyushiv. There was the mitzvah in Torah. There was a mitzvah midrabanan to hear it on the Shmoneh Esrei. It was all done together. Alter Rebbe explained because they wanted to ma'arv the satan. Seems like the satan got a little stronger. They needed to ma'arv him. So what did Chazal do? They didn't make a new takana and say, leave everything the way it was until now during Musaf Shmoneh Esrei, and we're going to make a new takana to blow another 30 Tekios before Musaf, Ma'arv the Sun, which is called Tekios Miyush. They didn't do that. They said, let's split up the two chiyuvim. During the Musa Shemana Esrei, we essentially are being yoyed to two chiyuvim. Min HaTorah chiyuv, does not require brachas, and the midrabanan chiyuv to say Tekios on the brachas. So you're doing really 2 in 1. 2 birds with 1 stone. Came along the minig and said, no. We need to be ma'av of the satan. Let's split those 2 chiyuvim up. Move the min HaTorah earlier. And that will be called Tekios Miyushiv. And you blow that before Musa Shemana Esrei. And now that I blew it before Shemana Esrei, the Satan is already confused by hearing the shofar sounds. He can't be mekatrig, or he can't mekatrig properly during Musaf. And the original Tekios Midrabanan remained on Mu'ummad. That's the way the Alter Rebbe understands. Now, since that's the way it was done, really comes out that Tekios Miyushim Mu'ummad are really one mitzvah. There's just 2 parts of one mitzvah that was split. They used to be all done together, package deal on Musaf, the Deraisa, and the Derabanan. Because we wanted to ma'aver the Satan, the minig Klal Yisrael, Nogel Kol Yisrael, to mechalik Tekios min HaTorah Midrabanan, and do them in HaTorah earlier. That's Miyoshiv, and keep the Derabanan the way it was. So reality, they're be'etzem 2 parts of one mitzvah. Because of that, the halacha is if you made a bracha. Let's say you're sitting in the sukkah. You made a leisha sukkah. During the meal, you don't talk. You can talk during the meal. How come you don't need to make another bracha? Because you're still in the middle of the mitzvah. As long as you're sitting in the sukkah, you're doing the mitzvah. You're all in the middle of the mitzvah. When you're in the middle of one mitzvah, a hefsik, there's no hefsik. The hefsik is a problem when I'm trying to make a bracha on 2 mitzvahs. I'm trying to do one bracha on 2 mitzvahs. I spoke in between the second mitzvah, I'm going to have to make another bracha. But if I spoke in between the middle of one mitzvah, you can't differentiate in the middle of one mitzvah, you can't make a hefsik. Since these 2 are really part and parcel of one mitzvah, so even if you spoke in between, you don't have to make another bracha because it's all one mitzvah. How come I can't talk in between? Because since it seems to be 2 mitzvahs, it looks like it's 2 mitzvahs, don't talk. But if you did talk, it's really one mitzvah and it's not mafsik. This is the way the Alter Rebbe understands this matzah. And therefore he explains that you don't need to be machmer so much. Since reality, it's not a hefsek. It's just that we don't speak because it looks like it's 2 mitzvahs. So therefore, you can be makel to say Tehillim. Tehillim is not something to do with shofar. People say Tehillim at Rosh Hashanah. You're supposed to try to say a lot of Tehillim at Rosh Hashanah. You're allowed to say Tehillim. You went to the bathroom, you're allowed to say Asher Yotzer. If you have to speak for something pertaining to the Tekios, you could talk. It's not a hefsek. We're more makel with it. Although regular talk, you should not talk. Stop talking, you shouldn't talk. Because the din is, we wanted the bracha from Yusha Yidam moment. But if some reason someone did forgot and he spoke, you don't make another bracha on the Ummid because it's all one mitzvah achas, the Yusha and the Ummid. Just we split them to get this maila of la'arav asatan. That's basically what the hemshich, the whole rest of the sif is talking about.
About talk. Or the story, the last one after the.
That avada you could talk.
I'm saying no.
No, Inge not talk before.
Until then, it's got to be quiet.
Till then, after the kaddish the skabel, you can't talk during kaddish anyway. So till after kaddish the skabel.